Welcome to the Project Success webinar, Curriculum Resources. We thank you for joining us today on how to explore and select curriculum and resources aligned to critical content connectors. We invite you to watch our former Project Success webinars, a guide to content connectors and lesson plan development, which may be found on our website at projectsuccessindiana.com, and you can find them under the Resource tab.
We also encourage you to join our open office hours for a further conversation around curriculum resources aligned to content connectors, which will be on November 6th from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
This quote by Les Brown is going to provide a framework for our webinar today. The quote states, "No one rises to low expectations." We as educators must focus on raising our expectations for our students while building access and opportunity through the design of instruction and the selection of our curriculum. Today, we will focus on high expectations when selecting curriculum and resources aligned to the content connectors.
We encourage you to reach out to our Project Success team with any questions you may have regarding the content connectors, best practice for instruction, as well as selecting curriculum aligned to content connectors. Our email addresses may also be found on our website at projectsuccessindiana.com. My name is Ashley Quick, and this is my first year with the Project Success team. Prior to joining the Project Success team, I was a special educator for 10 years, as well as a higher education publisher for 3 years.
Hi, my name is Meredith Keaty Merck, and this is my third year with the Project Success team. Prior to Project Success, I was a special educator for 8 years and a building level administrator for 3 years.
Today's agenda includes understanding the content connectors, unpacking critical content connectors, exploring curriculum, and resources aligned to content connectors. We hope you leave today's webinar being able to identify critical content connectors and embedded skills, access a master list of resources which are age appropriate and aligned to the content connectors, identify best practice when selecting curriculum aligned to alternate achievement standards.
Project Success is part of the Indiana Resource Network. The Indiana Resource Network is made possible by the Indiana Department of Education's Special Education Grants. It is comprised of centers that provide targeted, comprehensive support to schools across the state to improve teaching and learning. Many of the resources within the Indiana Resource Network are free or at low cost to districts, schools, and teachers. All of the resources and services provided by Project Success are at no cost to districts and schools. More specifically, Project Success strives to support teams of teachers and administrators in Indiana as they work to implement alternate academic standards into instruction for students with disabilities. Much of our work is grounded in the content connectors, which are Indiana's alternate achievement standards, as well as in designing instruction and supports access to the standards for all students. Project Success provides current research-based resources related to content standards, instructional design, and student outcomes, and is specifically designed to meet the needs of students with disabilities. We host seasonal regional trainings with guest teachers, as well as provide targeted on-site professional development to schools and districts based on teacher and student needs. Each professional development session is targeted to specific district needs, such as locally designed assessments, unpacking content connectors, or lesson plan development. In addition, the Project Success website offers, at no cost, tools and resources such as the content connectors, unpacking templates, sample unit plans, such as the LASSIs and MASSIs.
Project Success has resources that can assist teachers as they make the shift to more rigorous curriculum for students with significant cognitive disabilities. All of the content connectors can be found on the IDOE and Project Success websites. As indicated on the screen, they can be found in the resources section at projectsuccessindiana.com.
We want to begin today's webinar with the content connectors. When selecting curriculum and resources for students with significant needs, we must begin with the grade level content connectors, which are also known as the alternate achievement standards. You will hear these terms, content connectors and alternate achievement standards, used interchangeably. For in-depth information around the content connectors, we encourage you to watch our September webinar, A Guide to Content Connectors. However, let's review the content connectors today.
As a reminder, the content connectors are Indiana's alternate achievement standards, and they align to the Indiana academic standards. Content connectors should serve to guide the curriculum for students with significant cognitive disabilities. Each aligned content connector is a simplified, less complex version of the state standard. Content connectors cover kindergarten through high school in each of the core areas and are assessed on the I-STAR assessment. The content connectors are prioritized and highlight the necessary knowledge and skills students need to reach the learning targets at each grade level.
The content connectors are aligned to Indiana's academic standards, and they highlight the knowledge and skills needed for students to reach learning targets at each grade level. Content connectors are used to drive our instruction, align our IEP goals, as well as the selection of curriculum to design our lesson plans. You can find the content connectors on the IDOE's website, as well as the Project Success website, www.projectsuccessindiana.com. Here you'll find documents that show the alignment of the content connectors to the Indiana standards, as well as posters that show the alignment of the content connectors across grade levels.
Content connectors, when utilized to plan instruction, ensure that students with significant cognitive disabilities are taught curriculum aligned with the Indiana academic standards. The content connectors provide a foundation for curriculum planning as well as IEP development for students with cognitive disabilities. However, it is important to remember that the content connectors are not the curriculum, do not define how we teach, and do not define the services provided to our students. Standards, not curriculum, drive instruction. Don't get stuck adhering solely to the curriculum or only to the IEP. Students should be taught and exposed to much more than what is present in a general curriculum or even an IEP. IEP goals are meant to address areas that represent barriers for the student, but those are not the only areas that should be addressed in instruction. Similarly, just because a student is working on a skill does not mean there should be a specific IEP goal written for it. IEP goals should focus on skills aligned to standards that have the greatest impact across academic subject areas, allowing the student increased access to grade level content.
The content connectors tell us what students should be able to do and know. The curriculum is a set of learning experiences designed to meet the standards. More specifically, the curriculum is the how. When thinking about determining curriculum for students with significant disabilities, we want to begin with the content connector. More importantly, we want to select a critical content connector and then determine the skills embedded within the content connector. This allows us to select curriculum and resources to teach the embedded skills. The standards are the starting point to curriculum selection.
When selecting curriculum, you'll want to start with a critical or important content connector. Guidance documents for the content connectors can be found on the IDOE and Project Success websites. This information is helpful in planning instruction by showing the alignment of the content connectors to the Indiana academic standards, as well as the priority level of each content connector. On the Project Success website, you can access the content connectors as well as posters that align content connectors by grade levels. The posters provide a K-12 view of the content connectors by standard strand. This is useful for teachers when planning instruction and designing lesson plans for students in multiple grade bands. The posters also include the priority indicator for each content connector.
This unpacking template walks you through the unpacking process for an individual content connector. You begin by listing the specific content connector. Then identify the skills and concepts within the content connector. The skills indicate what the student should be able to do, and the concepts refer to what the student should be able to know. Using these specific skills aligned to the content connectors, a teacher can determine resources and skills that align back to the content connector. Let's review the unpacking process together. First, we have the content connector that reads, describe characters in a story, their traits, motivations, and feelings. When looking at this content connector, we want to consider the skills embedded within, or what the student should be able to do, focusing specifically on what students need to be able to do and to know. Therefore, students need to be able to identify the character in the story, the who, describe a character in the story, describe a trait, a feeling, and their motivations. Next, we want to review what students should know within the content connector. Understanding WH questions like who, the character, understanding and naming feelings, identifying the character's emotions. Understanding the WH question, why, to identify the character's motivation. Looking at these embedded skills, the teacher can begin to consider appropriate resources, materials, and curriculum which align directly to the content connector. Unpacking the content connector allows the teacher to narrow the instructional focus.
After identifying critical content connectors, unpack skills embedded within the content connectors. We can begin to explore curriculum and resources which align and influence our teaching of the skills. It is important to remember the general education curriculum is where we should begin in this process. Reviewing the modifications and accommodations are also important, which may need applied for student access.
As previously stated, we want to review the general education curriculum to determine how we can provide accommodations and/or modifications to allow student access. Access may mean environmental adaptations, instructional accommodations, staff supports, social supports, behavior interventions, and/or testing accommodations.
It is important to understand the difference between accommodations and modifications. Plan A and B highlight examples of accommodations. You see in Plan A, students work towards the same learning target and demonstrate the same evidence and criteria. However, the students use different materials to reach the learning target. In Plan B, students have the same learning target but have to demonstrate different evidence and criteria and utilize different materials to reach the learning target. Plan C highlights an example of a modification. The students are working towards a different learning target than their classmates, and they are demonstrating different evidence of their learning using different materials to reach their learning target.
To summarize, accommodations can help a student learn the same material and meet the same expectations as their classmates. Therefore, if a student has reading issues, for example, she might listen to an audio recording of a text. There are different types of classroom accommodations, including presentation, like listening to an audio recording of a text, and setting, like where a student sits. In contrast, students who are far behind their peers may need changes or modifications to the curriculum. For example, a student could be assigned shorter or easier reading assignments. Kids who receive modifications are not expected to learn the same material as their classmates. Modifications are applied for students with significant cognitive disabilities.
As we think about the content connectors and the selection of curriculum, we must focus on equity versus equality. Equality is the act of giving students the same opportunities in the classroom, the same curriculum, the same standards, same expectations. However, when thinking about creating the best possible education for students, we must focus on equity, providing what each student needs to have access to general education curriculum and learning opportunities. This may come in the form of accommodations or modifications to the general education curriculum.
When selecting curriculum, materials, and resources aligned to content connectors, there are some resources which are prepared for you to assist in getting started in teaching content connectors. If your school does not have an adopted curriculum or you need additional resources to teach the content connectors, these resources can guide you and are aligned to the content connectors and are modified from general education curriculum. They include the element cards, LASSIs, and MASSIs. Each of these resources can be found on our website at www.projectsuccessindiana.com under Project Success Resources.
Element cards are a springboard to your content connector aligned lesson plans. They provide ideas for teaching academic concepts as well as suggestions for materials and resources. They include modifications to support all students and leveled learners. As you review the element cards, we suggest that you identify areas which may need repeated or emphasized within the lesson plan. This is an example of the element card framework. In this example, you can see the suggested instructional strategies and supports and scaffolds are aligned to the content connector.
The next curriculum resource aligned to content connectors are the LASSIes and MASSIes. LASSIes are language arts lesson plans and MASSIes are math lesson plans. Both resources can be found on our website at projectsuccessindiana.com under Project Success Resources. The LASSIes and MASSIes are scripted unit plans which can be used in whole group, small group, and one-to-one instruction. These unit plans will take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to teach. The materials are aligned to the content connectors and are designed for multiple grade levels. For example, grades 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and high school. They also include progress monitoring towards the skills within the content connectors. Both LASSIes and MASSIes include teacher and student materials, step-by-step teaching guides, student text, and progress monitoring. Additionally, you can print student choice boards which align to the comprehension questions. The LASSIes and MASSIes are excellent resources to share with instructional assistants or support staff to assist in teaching content connectors.
Our curriculum list is a list of curriculum, resources, and materials teachers use to teach the content connectors in their classrooms across the state of Indiana. This list was created at our Project Success Summer Regional Trainings and is added to as Project Success collaborates with teachers across the state of Indiana. The curriculum list includes a live link to the resource or website, description of the subject highlighted, grade levels taught, cost, and notes about the materials. For example, what the materials provide, how the teacher uses the materials, or specific skills taught with that resource. Most of the resources on this list are free or at low cost to teachers.
As Project Success staff travels the state, we often hear of teachers using unique learning systems and News to You or the attainment curriculum to target the content connectors. If you teach using these curriculums, we encourage you to unpack the critical content connectors to assure that you are teaching the most important standards through instruction. Both attainment and unique learning systems are aligned to academic standards, age appropriate, and are differentiated from multiple levels of learners. The purchase of these curriculums is determined by the district level.
We encourage you to visit our website at projectsuccessindiana.com to explore curriculum resources such as the LASSIes, MASSIes, and element cards, as well as the critical content connectors to guide curriculum selection.
Thank you for watching today's webinar. We encourage you to join our open office hours, which will continue to explore curriculum resources on November 6th from 3 to 4 p.m. Our open office hours will highlight expert teachers and how they select curriculum and materials to teach critical content connectors.